Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Uh, Today we will start a new topic that's very important in programming, which is loops. Loops are really important when one tries to, repeat the same calculation several times. Then loops become very important. Suppose you want to repeat some calculation 1,000 times, 2,000 times, or more or less, then you don't really need to code every little line of these calculations 2,000 or 1,000 times. Instead, you can ask the computer to loop for you a certain number of times to repeat the same calculation. But these loops are divided into two types, two categories. There is the so-called while loops, and there is the so-called for loops. And the difference is the following. It will become clear as we take more exercises, but the difference is very simple. In for loops, you know how many times the loop will run. So number of times of running or run is known a priori, is known a priori. So we know ahead of time how many times this loop will run. On the other hand, for the while loop, we don't know how many times it will run because the number of times is decided based on a condition. So the number of times is decided based on conditions. There could be one condition, there could be more than one condition, but it's really depending on a condition. And because of this, we don't really know a priori how many times the loop will run. All right. It could be 3, 4, 5, 10, 20,000. We don't really know. It depends on the condition. The worst, of course, that it will run an infinite number of times, but that usually means that you made a mistake in writing this. So today, or in this video, we will start discussing while. So let me introduce a simple example here. Um, let's get a MATLAB script and save it. Let's call it symbol while loop m. Save this. Let's write a very simple code that will illustrate the idea of a while. So I will start defining a loop variable x equal 1. And let me write a comment that this is really the loop variable, the main loop variable. And then the while looks like this. There is a while and some condition, which I will write now, while x is less than 15. And then at the end, you see MATLAB is doing this thing, is basically anticipating an end to come somewhere. So, and that's the end statement. And then in between, you need to do the calculations or the writing or the output that you need to do. So for example, in this case, I will ask the computer to display the value of x. I will also update the value of x. It's going to be the new x equal 3 times the old x minus 1. And that's it. That's pretty much what's going to happen. So let me save this. To understand how this loop works, it's better to trace what's going to happen. And I'm going to do this tracing here on the right-hand side. So I want you to imagine two things. One thing, there will be the memory of the computer, the RAM memory of the computer. And the other thing is the screen. So let's imagine what's going to be printed on the screen. So we have the memory and the screen. All right. So at the very beginning, in the memory, x equals 1. And then the loop will start. So let's check the condition. Is x less than 15? And the answer is yes. Then the loop runs. You display x on the screen. So on the screen, I will see x equal 1. And I will calculate the new x, but I will keep this in the memory of the computer. So the new x is 3x minus 1. So it's going to be 3 times 1 is 3, and then minus 1 is 2. So the new value of x is 2. All right? And then we reach to the end statement. But when you reach to the end statement, you don't stop. Instead, you go up again, and to the while loop and check the condition of the while. So that's why it's a loop. It repeats. So x now is 2. Is it less than 15? The answer is yes. Then I go inside the loop. So I will display x. So x equal to, this will be displayed. And I will calculate the new x. And the new x is 3 times 2, that's 6. And then minus 1, that's 5. So the new x is 5. And then we reach to the end statement, so we don't end. Instead, we go back again to the while loop and check, is it less than 15? The answer is yes. Then I go inside the loop and display x. So I will display x equal 5. And then I will calculate the new x. The new x is going to be 3 times x, which is 3 times 5, that's 15, minus 1, that's actually 14. And then let me check and then I reach to the end, so I go back again to the beginning of the loop. Is x less than 15? The answer is yes. So I will display x equal 14. And then I will calculate the new x. But you have to be careful now. So x is 14. So 14 times 3, that's actually 42. And then minus 1, that's 41. So x is 41. This is in the RAM memory of the computer. And then we reach to the end. And then I go back again to the while. Is x less than 15? The answer is no. And because it is no, this whole block will be ignored, and then the computer moves to whatever calculation comes next. For example, the next calculation could be a display, a message for the user, for example, thank you. All right, so that could be a calculation. There could be other calculations. Let's run this code and confirm that our tracing is correct. So if I run this, and as you see, it starts calculating 1 or displaying 1, 2, 15, and 14, and then the thank you message comes, right? So exactly as we predicted. Let me tell you something. After the while loop, if I want to display the value of x after the while, what will be the value that will be displayed? It is what's stored in the memory, which is 41. But the 41 was not printed out during the loop because, when x is 41, I'm not even allowed to go inside there. So let me actually check this again. I will CLC and clear and run again. As you see, so I get the 41 because of the display x that appears after the while loop. All right. So that in summary shows how the while loop works. It works by a condition, and then I keep checking this condition. If it's violated, then the loop terminates and we go to whatever after the loop. But there are two important things to notice, and let me highlight these on the next page. First thing is the loop variable itself, the x, the thing that appears in the condition of the while. Suppose I removed this loop variable. For example, I commented out this line. Let me do this here. I commented out this line. So now the computer doesn't know what x. Let me CLC and clear. So if I run this loop, I will get an error. So what kind of error I will get? Unrecognized function of variable x, right? And that actually happens in line number 3 when we are checking is x less than 15 and the computer doesn't know what is actually x. So one key important thing regarding while loops, there are two important things. The loop variable, in this case it is the x here, must be defined before the loop itself. Okay, so that's very important because if you remove it, you get a message like unrecognized function of that. Now let's restore this again. If I restore it again, the loop should run nicely. But let me this time comment out this line. Okay. So what did we do now? We are not updating the loop variable inside the loop. And because of this, if we go back to the previous page, the value of x will remain always 1. And the computer will keep printing 1. And essentially, this is an infinite loop. So let's actually test this. I'm going to do CLC and clear here. Let me run. You see, it keeps printing 11111 on the screen many times. And you see this thing here, the scroll bar here, it keeps, flashing because it keeps writing new things. This is an infinite loop and it's dangerous because it will keep burning your computer for hours and hours without finishing. If you face something like this, you can simply do control, like click on the command window and do control T. That will terminate the loop. And I want you just to see what has been printed so far. 1111111. You see bunch of ones on the screen. This is really an infinite. And if we left it running, it would run forever. So that actually highlights the next thing about, of the second important thing about while loops. The loop variable the loop variable, which in this case is x, must be updated inside the loop, or otherwise this is going to be an infinite loop. So let's restore this back again. Now this loop works fine. In summary, while loops, you don't know a priori how many times it will run. In fact, in the previous example, how many times it ran, it ran 1, 2, 3, 4 times, right? And printed 4 numbers, okay? But I didn't know this a priori. I know that it will end based on a condition, but I don't know how many times it will run. In this particular case, it ran 4 times. So you need also to define a loop variable before the loop. There should be a condition based on this loop variable, and then the loop variable itself must be updated inside the loop, otherwise it will end. It will be an infinite. And the way it looks like, there is a while, a condition, end statement, and some stuff written in between, including updating the loop variable. All right. Thank you so much, and see you in another video.